that have not been on a webinar before. Normally it's just me and some slides, but since this webinar is on 15 ways to market your public adjusting business on Facebook, I wanted to bring our very own marketing expert, Amanda, with us. She is one of our team members. So we're going to be kind of co-oping this webinar together, just so you know. So now everybody can hear it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Really excited to be here and talking about Facebook, the place where I live.
One of the places where you live. You live Facebook, Twitter,
yes,
Instagram, all the magic things online.
Pretty much. Yep.
All right. So let's get this party started. So I'm going to walk everyone through the slides as we go through them, mostly because of this hodgepodge thing that Amanda and I have going on here. She can't see the slides, although she has a unique copy of them. So that's how we're going to roll today.
Yep.
So we have this webinar today, which is 15 ways to market your public adjusting business on Facebook. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is, I kind of break this up. You know me, I always have an agenda. Is we're going to talk about 5 ways to use Facebook to prospect for new clients, 5 ways to support your existing clients, and 5 ways to gain referrals and word of mouth clients. Now, to be completely honest, these tactics will work on almost any social media platform. Some of the technical pieces of it may be different. We didn't make this technical. If you find any of these pieces that really resonate with you, of something you might want to do, and there's some technical aspects to it, you can just kind of research that rabbit hole without having to worry about the rest of it. So we should be good.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so the first thing is so Amanda, maybe you can talk to this too, a little bit about your Facebook page. The big orange screen is the starting point for every tactic. Cannot use profiles, cannot use groups, cannot use places. So what's the big pitfall that we see with people when they use their personal Facebook profile for a business?
So the biggest pitfall really is just limitation of access. By having a business page, you really have so many more opportunities to better market yourself. You have better opportunities to actually track and learn about your audiences. And it also just creates a bit more distance between you and your brand. There are some cool ways that Facebook does allow you to show humanity and personalization, but just on a more human level, it does create this nice barrier of distance between your company and your personal self. Because I know, as a micro influencer, my friends and my family do not always care lovingly about the things that I'm doing. So if I were to treat my personal Facebook like my business page, that's a lot of updates that are just not relevant to my friends versus my built audience over years. Also, your Facebook business page is going to be great for SEO. So when you're talking about ranking on Google and searching and pulling up, that's actually a huge factor that now matters in the most recent algorithm update.
Excellent, excellent. There's still a cap on number of friends you can have, and I don't remember what it is.
It's in the thousands for some people, but yeah, there's definitely still a cap that you can have. So if you're a super popular business, that will cap and teeter off for you at a certain point, yes. But I believe it's still in the thousands, which is not a place most humans are getting.
Oh, someone said 5K. Yeah. I used to hear 2K. I heard 5K. Yeah, maybe, Amanda, it does have to do with like other magic things we don't know about.
That's a pretty great way to describe anything with Facebook.
Pretty magical. We don't magic secret things.
Yes.
So definitely. And one of the things that we're going to recommend here is to maybe use Facebook advertising. So I'm kind of talking about the elephant in the room right off the bat. If you use your personal profile, you can't run ads with that. So that's one of the big things that I always see. Years ago, and by years ago, I mean 10 years ago, you used to be able to go to Facebook and request your personal profile be turned over to a page. Mm-hmm. They no longer do that. If they see that you're running business from your personal profile, they could shut you down. So
they can, and they will.
And they have.
But you will need a personal profile to access Ads Manager. That's something that is becoming different for a lot of companies. A while ago, you'd be able to create almost like ghost accounts because people didn't want to have their personal Facebook on blast. But increasingly now, Facebook is suspicious of that, which for security's sake, I completely understand. As a person who doesn't always like having their business attached to their personal, sure, it's a little bit irksome, but if it means a safer and more secure advertising platform, I'm happy to comply.
Agreed. I agree with you on that. Excellent. And I should say, if you have any questions, throw them in the sidebar on the webinar chat. Amanda can't see them, but I can, so we can talk about them.
We can.
Okay, next up. So I want to talk about 5 ways to prospect for new clients on Facebook. This is like brand new to you people, right? Mm-hmm. So the first one is I like to talk about who are you? Here I have what's your company vision? What message do you want to deliver? So even though we're recommending you open a page, and I will say a page over Places, because Places has a physical limitation of like a brick and mortar. And for the most part, public adjusting companies will go anywhere in a state that they are licensed to do business, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to tie you into the Tampa area if you go down to, Miami and up the coast and all those sorts of things, because Facebook isn't really going to give you a lot of visibility, say, out of the Tampa metro area, if that's where you kind of put your flag in the ground. That's why I personally believe that pages are a lot better than places. Mm-hmm. So there's a difference there. But just because you're using a Facebook page doesn't mean, like Amanda said before, you can still be human and show, empathy and things like that in there. So some of these ideas of what message do you want to deliver, these are just general type of marketing speaky things. Yes. But what Amanda's like, yes, this is my deal. But it's really meant to humanize you. As I say with clients a lot, with public adjusting clients a lot, your business is a service. I know the core of what you do, but your service is to provide assistance when people are at their lowest. Mm-hmm. So you have to really consider about your message, about how approachable you're looking. I always see kind of 2 sides of public adjusting. Some are bulldogs and they're like, we're going to go after and get out of your penny. And some are more empathetic. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. They each have their role. But whatever that is, that's your message that you kind of want to portray out there by what you talk about, what you share, all sorts of things like that.
And even down to little nitty gritty things like your banner and your profile photo. Those are all things that sort of go into the overall brand voice that you'll create. So if you are one of those more bulldog agencies, then it wouldn't really necessarily make sense if your header and cover are, light namaste florals.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. It needs to match. And that I know is a big part of like your overall branding. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So that's one of the things that we want to convey when people go to your page, when they see your company tagged someplace and they come back to check you out, they want to know about you. One of my biggest pet peeves in the industry online is when I go to About Us pages and it's some generic Generation Z dressed up in business suits stock photo. Like, I want to know about you. I want to know about your family history in the business. That type of stuff should go above and beyond in Facebook, because Facebook is a community where you're supposed to connect with people. Mm-hmm. You just happen to be a person that has business.
Exactly.
All right, next slide. Number 2, know your audience. This is something that totally Amanda, because I'm putting her on the spot, could talk about.
It is. So lookalike audiences are really, really interesting. They're a way to not only reach new people, but actually learn a great deal about the audience that you already have. So most people are usually targeting female head of household. And that means knowing when female head of household is home, what device she is on, and other kinds of things that are similar to her interests. But creating a lookalike audience then helps you go a little bit above and beyond that, because sometimes people will market themselves into a box and they'll shoot for one target audience that actually has nothing to do with the audience that they actually have or have built. So I love using lookalike audiences as a way to act, almost like a way to figure out what I'm actually working with, because I think we all sort of assume where our demo is, and then you get into the back end and insights, and then it's like, that's not any of what I've been marketing to at all. So it's sort of watering down your message when you're aiming for female head of household, but you're hitting my generation millennials, mm-hmm. because those voices are not the same. You cannot market to millennials the way you market to a female head of household. You can't market to Gen Z the way you market to a millennial.
Exactly. And even some of the demographic, I'm going to switch to the next slide here because it's got some more information on it. So Facebook generally recommends a source audience for lookalike audiences between 1,000 and 50,000 people. 50,000 people is crazy, right? But what they're asking for basically is you're going to take an email list that you have of your best favorite clients, not the ones that you couldn't stand working with, not the ones that you didn't make a profit on, because Facebook's just going to give you more of the same. And who wants more clients you're not going to make a profit on?
Right.
And to take those, and they will go through and find not necessarily those people's exact email matches. So it's not a one for one. They're going to say, all right, here's these 1,000 people that you loved working with. What are their common interests? Maybe they're all golfers. Maybe they're all fishermen. Maybe they are all female head of households. But what you're probably not going to find is a lot of apartment dwellers or a lot of people that don't own homes. Because like that's one of the data sets that you can search and say, I want to show my advertising to people in Facebook that own homes, not have apartments or live with their parents, because where you're going to get a claim from there. So that's where you're saying that you want to get your good audience. You can run it with under 1,000. It just gets a little
murky.
A little bit more vague, a little bit more murky. So when we talk about lookalike audiences, this is a very important way to do it. There's a lot of technical things that you can do behind it, but you can get this list. If you're in ClaimWizard, go to your client, sort them out. Especially we have the ratings in there now, I think 1 to 5 stars. Pick your 4 and 5 star clients that you liked working with, pull their email addresses. You can upload them into Facebook as a lookalike, and then Facebook will go out there and find other people like them in their area. What other things can you narrow down on?
Oh goodness, you can target down to within a 5-mile radius of the zip code. You can target different demographical information like whether they're military or if they belong to any certain affiliations. You can no longer target based on religious affiliation, which is actually a note to mention. The list of what you can and cannot target is, I will say, constantly evolving. And a lot of that is rooted in, again, like security risks and a concern about predatory advertising. So if a campaign that you ran this time last year no longer runs, just know that Facebook is trying to figure its stuff out. Because I know I've had that issue with some of my campaigns where I've run the same ad verbatim year to year, but because I was targeting a particular audience, that ad was no longer approved. But again, that's Facebook trying to make advertising a little bit less icky.
Can you still target, because Amanda is in this now and not so much Lynette anymore, can you target members of groups that you are both members of?
Yes.
You still can. So I remember that, but I just remembered that because I want to bring it up. If you are in, and you're going to see some of the other suggestions we make later, if you're in local groups, local Chamber of Commerce groups online, even networking events like home builders associations in your area, real estate agent groups in your area, all on Facebook, you can then say, hey, if a person is a member of that group, maybe, and they meet other criteria, send them this this advertisement, which is part of why I say join as much as you can locally, because it makes a lot of sense. I do believe you have to be a part of that group in order to market to that group. You just can't pick randomly anybody on the internet. So, any group that you want. So you have to be a part of the membership of the group to be able to market to them. But that's a really good tactic as well.
It is. And also just knowing other similar groups, because some of the more generic ones are sort of open for you to market to, even if you're not necessarily a part of them. So if it is one of those larger groups like American Red Cross, you don't necessarily have to be a part of that particular group or like that particular page to still market to people that have a similar interest.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yep.
Very good. All right. Perfect. So the other day I went through and I said, all right, who's targeting towards me, right? So in my Facebook, now I don't even know if Facebook still runs the ads down the side. I run an ad blocker on my computer, browser and things like that, or my internet browser. But the thing is, you still get advertisements in line with the rest of your content that your friends are sharing, pictures, babies, and things like that. So that the ad blockers can't hit. So Facebook coded their way around that, which is cool and kind of not. But, there's always a running joke with everyone I've ever said that if you just want to learn more about something, say it to your phone, and Facebook will somehow magically hear it and present ads to you.
That actually happened to me today. I was talking about Spotify with some friends, and I got an email that was a 3-month trial for Spotify.
It's creepy. I don't know how much truth is to that, but it is creepy. Usually what happens when stuff happens like that is they're marketing to you because you purchased another product that puts you in line with, somebody that likes their things, or you visited a website that has something called a Facebook pixel on it, which basically puts a tracker on you. So like a sci-fi, spaceship, and they put a tracker beacon on you. Wherever you go, they could follow you. That's kind of the same concept.
Or the more generic version, which has a very cute name, which is a cookie. So a lot of sites will use cookies, which is why now there's a bunch of information about whether you accept or deny them, because a lot of internet security and safety. But a lot of sites will just have cookies just everywhere. So if you look on something on Amazon, you will often be retargeted on Facebook if you abandoned your cart or something like that.
Exactly. So they are all interconnected, and the Facebook and the advertising is how and why they do it. But I was looking through some of mine, and I was like, okay, well, these look like things that I could actually use, right? An at-home wine tasting kit. We're all about that.
Yeah.
Journal planning. I'm a huge goal planner, right? Do that. And then hats for bananas. So we don't know where the hats from bananas come from, but it's there.
It's there. I think the most outlandish ad I got was I got an ad for a Danish conservative party in politics.
Okay,
So I've never lived in or have ever visited Denmark. So every once in a while, the ghost in the machine does get a little bit confused, and you get hats for bananas.
Exactly. And I should say, sometimes it's not always Facebook that goofs up. Sometimes the people that are picking these things pick the wrong thing. And then Facebook's going to go, okay, I'll take your money and go here. So if your ads are not being targeted to people that you feel would be a good match for you, it might not be them, it might be you. So either go back and rehash it or kind of contact a professional and see how they can help you out with that.
Precisely.
Okay, next, find and talk to your prospects. This is where I said, join and participate in every local community group that you can, that feels genuine to you, I should say. It would make zero sense for Lynette to join a Knights of Columbus, even though every man in my family has ever been, has been in, KFC and stuff like that. It's not genuine for me. But if during the course of your business, if joining Chamber of Commerce or Knights of Columbus, or I know people that the Shriners are big over here just because there's a huge they have a huge building here. Like any kind of group you can think of, even if it's a local moms group or school group or whatever. Like, I'm not saying to go in there to, like we were talking beforehand about just being spammy all over the place. But number one, it's going to give you access and visibility in front of your local community. And then number two, you can always target ads to those people. So if you find there's a good bunch of people that you find may be in need of your services or great referral sources for you, and you don't want to be spammy and say, hey, go share my stuff with people, you can just target your ads to them. So it's kind of a roundabout way of getting to it.
Right.
The other thing that I like to mention is, especially because of COVID, all of those groups have had to put in some heavy lifting in order to attract people to their Facebook, get them to participate in groups, all of the things that they would normally do in person. So they are cultivating and growing these communities, and you simply need to just join and participate. They've already done a lot of the heavy work for you. If we said this 5 years ago, a lot of these groups, local groups, would not have been as mature or as active online because they had in person, that's what they knew.
Right.
But this year, everybody's online now.
This year has definitely been the year of, kind of put up or shut up with a lot of this stuff that you have to ramp up very quickly in really using social media as more than just a bulletin board to occasionally post community events.
Yeah, it's truly now communication and not just
Mhm.
passive. I agree with you on that. Okay, number 4, check your messages.
Yep,
So Amanda does that for us.
I
Yay.
do.
I don't know how many we get. Probably not many. That's cool. You might. People will want to talk to you. And here's the
Yes.
thing. If you only had a fax machine, but none of your clients had a fax machine, do you think they'd go out and buy one just so they could talk to you? Probably not.
I don't know how to use a fax machine.
There you go. There you
I
go.
know what they look like and I know what they are, but under duress, I do not think I could tell you how to work one.
Exactly. The insurance carriers still love them, even though they're all now mostly digital in the computers. But exactly, that's kind of my point. Like, I'm not going to make my potential clients jump through hoops to try to get in touch with me.
Mhm.
And DocuSign and eFax and all of these other things, right?
Yep.
But my point here is, if someone finds you on Facebook or on Instagram, if you have a presence, or LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever, because like I said, a lot of this will work in other platforms, is meet them where they're at. Like, don't expect them to dig up your phone number, bury it on a page, or find your email. If they want to click the messenger button and chat with you, Facebook will help you set up on your page like a little messenger bot to help
Yes.
people before you get a chance to jump on the computer. But just check your messages.
Yes, very much so. And I'll say this on behalf of all anxious millennials: please do not make me call you. If I have to call your business, you've already lost points. If my first point of contact has to be a phone call,
Yeah.
I'm already moving on. So being able to message, especially those automated messages, are great occasionally, because sometimes there are really common questions that don't necessarily need a ton of man hours. So I don't necessarily need to answer every message that comes in. What are your hours? So that then frees me up to answer the really tough questions, like, what can your software do for me?
Mhm.
Now I have the bandwidth to actually spend time on that, rather than answering the same question worded differently 5 times.
Right, exactly. And you actually made a good point. It is generational to a good point. We'll work with clients over here at ClaimWizard, and the policyholders are all elderly folks down in Florida, retired for 30 years. They are not going to email. They are not going to text message. They are going to pick up an old phone like this, not like this, right?
Phone.
The
Yes.
rotary phone. And they are going to call you.
Yes.
Someone, the millennials are hitting 40 now, so everybody thinks they're babies. They're not.
Thanks for that. I get you with the phone hand gesture. Now you got it.
I know. Well, I think my baby brother is on the older side of the millennials, and he's 36, so we'll go with that. But that group will do certain things where the younger homeowners, younger whatever, or even if you're working in a professional capacity, they're more likely to hit you up on Messenger or WeChat or like all of these different things. So I say definitely be available in the capacities that you can. When people want to talk to you, don't make it hard for them.
Right.
The other thing with Facebook is, if you don't answer your messages, they will tell your prospects that you don't answer your messages.
Yes, they will.
So they might tell you, oh, this person's fast to respond. Like, that's cool. Because I know if I, message a business, they're going to get back to me in an hour or two. But if they say they're not, I can message and I might not get a response back for a week or two. So Facebook watches how you respond with people, and they reward people that participate. So that's why I say check your messages.
And it's also an important consumer point, because I know, like, for me, I messaged a food truck about a food item because I have allergies. So if they took a while to answer that message, that's the difference between my business versus not. Luckily, they did get back to me quick enough, and I was able to get that food item, and it was delicious. But
the same hold through public adjusters. If people are freaking out, I'm not saying they're calling a public adjuster when their house is currently on fire, although it does happen. They're just going to pick up the phone or scroll to the next public adjusting company in their area on Facebook, and they're going to call them or contact them or message them.
Yep.
This is why I also tell people, please don't have a messaging service that doesn't understand anything about anything answering your phone for you. Have a relatively knowledgeable person so they can at least answer those preliminary questions up front to buy you more time to get in touch and vet that person. So social's the same thing.
Yep.
All right, number 5, look professional. Okay, we're just going to say that. Amanda mentioned before your profile picture and your cover photo for your page. Yes, for your personal profile, but when you talk on your page, you're talking as your company. It has the company logo and all that. So what were some of your suggestions again, Amanda, for that?
So I think one big thing, honestly, is that it matches the voice. So if your voice is more of that empathetic, kind, we're here to help you, then softer, more pastel tones. If you are a bulldog agency, you can work with earth tones and gunmetal imagery if you'd like.
Yeah.
The other big thing that I would definitely add is humor doesn't always translate well between insiders in the industry and your audience. So I know there's a bunch of jokes that I'm sure that public adjusters find hilarious and memes that public adjusters find hilarious that to someone who just lost their house is remarkably insensitive.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I agree with you on
not
that.
to say that you can't use humor and stuff like that, because we certainly try to have fun on Facebook and on Twitter, but there's a way to do it without coming off as super insensitive. And that just tends to happen when you're in an industry for a long time. This is your job. It's in a lot of ways fun to you, but you're not always thinking about it from the perspective of someone who is looking at your business. I think a lot of Facebook is easier to imagine as, think of it as a storefront for brick and mortar. And that should really help you inform the decisions that you're going to make. If you think about it like you are actually using a brick and mortar storefront, how are you attracting people into that business?
Yeah, that's your first look in the window, right? Is their profile picture and your cover photo.
So many people, Facebook is your storefront.
Yeah. Even if you have a PA business with an office and that sort of thing, but chances are people aren't just walking in unless they made an appointment sort of thing. So yeah, very, very good advice. We have a comment here that says if people message you on Facebook or LinkedIn, 90% of the time, they will only wait a few minutes before looking for another option. I mean, think about it as a consumer, right? That's how it would work for us. So why wouldn't it work that way for our clients?
Right. I mean, think about it. If you were in a physical space, if you were at a restaurant and you go up to the hostess station and the hostess doesn't show up for 5-10 minutes, you're not eating there. You're going somewhere else. So,
well, maybe not now. I'm so desperate to go to a restaurant. I'll sit there, but yeah.
Olive Garden could openly disrespect me and I would still stay.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I put in a couple little quick examples here about what to post, because people, that is the first thing. Like you're telling me like things like that I should be doing, that I shouldn't be doing, but what do I write? So I don't know. I'm totally putting Amanda on the spot here because I just gave her the slides and we haven't rehearsed any of this. It's just how we roll. I'll take the first one. Maybe you can take the second one. So the first one here is on the job pictures, right? So we struggle with this at work now because we're all separate for COVID and we just sit in an office all day. So how exciting is that? But public adjusters' jobs are interesting. You're digging through debris. You're meeting with contractors. You're up on roofs. You're doing all of these things that people want to see you at work so they understand when you work with them what's going to be performed. So there's always pictures on public adjusters' websites and social media of fires or burned out kitchens and things like that. And as a consumer, that is very interesting, but I also strongly believe that the after pictures have to be there. And I love the before, during, and after. I had a client share with us a kitchen fire burned out the whole corner of the house, right? A single story house. And the prior kitchen was in desperate need of an upgrade. It was like late 1980s all over the place. Very well maintained, everything was gorgeous, but it was 1980s. Kitchen burned out. They got a new kitchen back and it was like all white farm deco, really pretty and stuff like that. So, and this, the first thing on my head, because I'm cynical, is like, did they burn down their kitchen on purpose obviously they didn't, to get a rebuild out of it. But if you can show the before, during, and after, I think for people, they see the results that you get them. Because if all you do is show them fire, burned out kitchens, that was going to stick in their head with you. There's kind of this thing in advertising about why steakhouses don't show you raw steaks on their advertising, because a raw steak isn't appealing unless you intend on cooking it yourself. You don't go to a steakhouse to cook a steak yourself. They have to show you the completed steak, the little sprig of, that's kind of how they work. So show them what you want, what you can help get them to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Storyline number 2, BTS.
Yeah. So behind the scenes, I really love that you lead that with a show the team in the element. So yeah, if you are doing the best parts of your job, where you're in a crawl space fighting off a raccoon or something, that's a great photo. We get so many raccoons in crawl spaces here.
Yes.
But, and that also, that's a great place to add humanity to your brand. If you are ever concerned about coming off as too robotic or too doom and gloom, by showing behind the scenes stuff, that can really help. And I want to add in and tack in one thing, if I'm allowed to go a little rogue, community engagement. So I know that's not as applicable in COVID, but anytime you have an office birthday, if that person consents to having their photo on Facebook, if you are at a rally, a fun run, a church event, anything like that, take photos, whether you're supporting it or not. If you are sponsoring that event, even more so take photos. But basically anything that you do as a business, take photos and say that you're there, say that you're going there, advertise that you're going there. And that really is a great way to, one, provide essentially free content, and two, show the humanity behind your brand. And that's something that is really appealing to most consumers, because here's the thing. People know that they're being marketed to. That veil's kind of gone, where it's like, oh, I'm not really advertising. We know. The cat's out of the bag, we're aware. But you can still be human about it. And showing that you have charity involvements, showing that you are involved and ingrained in your community, those are all great ways to pretty much ingratiate yourself into that online digital space.
I agree. I like that very, very much. Yeah, it's not exactly to do directly with what your business is or what you offer, but it's just showing that community connection, which in the public insurance industry is so important.
Right.
Okay, what do we have next? Number 3, social proof. Super easy.
Mm-hmm.
Show results, show the successes of your team, your clients, your vendors. If you have a roofing vendor that you work with all the time and he gets like nominated or whatever for like small business of the year or, best roofer, toot his horn on your site kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right? I also like getting pictures with leaders in your industry and community. And someone had reminded me of this the other day, that we used to go and get autographs with people, like famous people, and now we just want our picture taken with them.
Yes.
Like, I don't want your autograph. What am I going to do with it? But your picture, oh yeah, I'm putting that all over online. So
or you can be a nerd like me and get both.
Both. There could be both.
I get a lot of both. Testimonials are also great.
Testimonials are so good. Do not let them die on the vine in your phone or on your, you're going to get more traction, I believe, on Facebook than you would normally on your web page. So put them both. There's no, the webinar or the testimonials, no one says it only has to live in one place. And no one says you have to share it once. Like, we use a product called Meet Edgar, and it helps you repopulate your social media feeds with old evergreen content. So every 6 months, pop up the same, testimonial, because if someone saw it then, they might have forgotten it. A new person sees it. So you can reuse old content. That's perfectly fine. All right. So now we're going to talk about, and see, I think Amanda and I could talk about this for a long time because we're kind of geeky, and we've worked with each other since COVID. So we don't really get to work in the office together.
No.
Which is sad.
It is.
So we're going to talk about 5 ways to support your existing clients on Facebook. Okay. The first thing I have is give them something to share.
Yes.
People want to be helpful. They want to be the one that found that funny meme and sent it. They want to be the one that found that recipe that is now your family favorite. They want to be the one to help their friends help when their house burned down.
Absolutely.
cannot even tell you how many times in my life I have referred public, or at least explain the concept of public adjusters. I really, really super try not to recommend a public adjuster over another, especially if they're, clients. I don't want to be like that, but sometimes there's only one or two in a whole area that it's like, this is easy. Go call one of the two guys. But people want to share, but it's not that people just want to share and be helpful. They want other people to see them being helpful. Like maybe it's a narcissistic thing. I don't really know the right term for it, but like I don't want to, this sounds bad to bring up, but like when people go and they help homeless, but then they're videotaping it for YouTube, it's like, can't you just go and help them and not try to get views on it? But in a less traumatic way, when people see your information online and then they share it with their friends, even if it's something like how to check your roof or make sure your outbuildings are secure before a storm, how to check your roof after, hail, how to do these whatevers. They will share that far and wide because it's knowledge that they are now ingratiating themselves on, that they are a part of because they're sharing it with you.
Absolutely. And honestly, even in a less cynical view of it, it's just genuinely helpful.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things that I do know and that I'm confident say I can know. I know nothing about my roof. I know nothing about how to inspect foundation. So if I were to find an article from a subject matter expert, which as public adjusters you are, or subject matter experts, that's super helpful to me. I think it's also just important to consider that when you're giving something to share that it isn't always that cynical of people want to share it. Sometimes it is just impacting one person, but that one person then is going to put in a good word for you later. It might not always be an immediate payoff, but because you've taught me something, if I have a friend down the road who now has a question or now has needs a recommendation, I'm more likely to go to the person who actually helped teach me something versus any rando on the internet.
Exactly. All right. Number 2, ask questions. People like to talk about themselves. They do. So ask your community, and it doesn't even have to be on your page. If you're someplace else, you can go and ask for recommendations that are somehow related to your industry. So if you ask questions or take polls or surveys, that will get people involved because they get to give their opinion. Even if it's like, which house do you, my customers are redoing their house. Should they paint it red or blue? Like fun things with their consent, obviously. But, things like that can really make people feel a part of what you're doing and gets them involved in your page and gets them to pay attention to what you have to offer them.
Absolutely. Anything that can encourage genuine engagement is something that I'm always going to advocate for. So if it is saying, you have an unlimited budget, in which style are you decorating your house? That has fantastic opportunity for engagement. Unless you've created an audience that's really, really hungry for your content and will continue to come back rather than they were here for one giveaway and now they're gone and disengaged.
Yeah. I really avoided talking about Facebook giveaways or contests because there's so many things to it. 99 out of 100 experts nowadays, unless they're selling you something to run a contest with, advise against doing Facebook contests. People back in the day used to give away, come, the 100th follower on my page gets a free iPad, and they came for the iPad and they could care less about you. So it's not something we really want to do anymore. We'd rather be slower and be more genuine than have a lot of people that we don't actually want kind of associated.
And also Facebook has made it infinitely harder to run contests like that because they can get predatory. In Facebook's defense, they can get super predatory and spammy. But there are so many ways you can violate terms of service in running a contest that most people aren't even aware of. And
is it a contest? Is it a lottery? What are your state requirements? It's too complicated.
Yep. So I completely agree with Lynette on that one. I don't think it's worth it 9 times out of 10. There's better, more genuine ways to engage with your audience than trying to give away a Yeti tumbler.
Yeah. Save that for the in-person conferences. I'll go put my card in your thing
for the next conference.
Exactly. And this one, 3, I think we touched upon this before about give them communication options because like Amanda said, not everyone wants to contact you the same way. Use Facebook Messenger. I know a lot of people don't want to have it on their phone because I think it's a separate app now.
It is.
Which is fine. Use it on your desktop. Doesn't have to be separate. If you want to, if you fear the rabbit hole of Facebook, of getting sucked into it when you're supposed to be working, if you go to messenger.com, you can log in with your Facebook account, your business messages, your personal messages, all of that will come through, and keep blinders on so you're not doing the doom scroll on Facebook and stuff like that. So I think that can absolutely be helpful.
Very much so.
Number 4 is teach them something. So Amanda touched upon this before about you're the expert, so write about something.
Write, do videos. Facebook Live is mentioned here. I know Facebook Live can be a little bit daunting, but really, once you get your toes in the water, it's not as scary as you think it is.
Yeah, and people don't expect that to be like polished and zingers and music, and everybody knows what. Everybody's probably watched one. Most people probably.
If anything, it comes off as way more authentic when it isn't polished. There's a reason why that baby that interrupted their dad during a news segment went viral so many times, is that you could never have planned for that. And that's 100% a reality that happens when you're working from home. There is a likelihood that something or someone's going to bother you.
Yes, which is why my door is closed. My dogs are locked outside.
Happens to the best of us.
But I will say also is I see a lot of websites of any business, right? Doesn't have to just be public adjusters, that by default the software came with a blog and they tried 1 or 2 blogs and it really didn't work for them. And now it's like this dead content sitting out there that looks neglected. Using, other arguments aside, using Facebook as sort of a blogging platform to put some information out there, I think could be really good because there's zero like learning curve or preparation. You type something in a box, you press send or post, and it goes, unlike setting up and maintaining and configuring a blog on a website. So if you've wanted to do that to share content, but you don't want to take that, the onus, the chunk of kind of getting that done, I suggest using Facebook as sort of like a pseudo blog, share information there, because trust me, Facebook has more traffic to it than your website ever will. I think the only one that beats Facebook is Amazon at this point, and YouTube. So if you think your website has more traffic than Amazon, YouTube, or Facebook, go right at it.
Yeah, I would also love to meet you if that's the case. I would love to know what is on your website if that is the case. The only thing I will add, though, for that is varying your content, which can be a bit of a learning curve. But creating infographics, standardized graphics, videos, lives, because if you are using it as a pseudo blog and it's just box of text, box of text, box of text, depending on who your demographic is, they may grow bored of that quickly. And there's plenty of really, really intuitive tools to help you build out that content if you weren't necessarily a graphic designer. I'm going to go ahead and plug Canva, hashtag not yet a sponsor, but but they're a great tool if you are looking to fake being a graphic designer, if you need a quick holiday graphic or a quick little nice thing to put your testimonials in. That way your page looks varied and expert rather than here's just the Declaration of Independence broken up into different paragraphs posted on different days. Exactly. Somebody made a comment in the chat over here that LinkedIn has more business traction than Facebook, but it's B2B focused. So that is exactly right. And that's something that I should have brought up earlier. If your policyholders that you're going after are residential, definitely Facebook. If you're going after commercial properties managers and things in that capacity, LinkedIn, and you can use all of these same tactics on LinkedIn. You can do advertising there. You can do the posts. You can do multimedias. You can do live videos. You can do all of that. You're definitely going to find them you're going to have a better chance on LinkedIn. But what I will say is chances are there's a huge overlap between Facebook and LinkedIn, but the persona of how someone interacts on Facebook is different than they interact on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's all business. Absolutely. Facebook can be business. It could be personal. It could be grandparents. It could be kids. It could be whatever, that sort of thing. So just like, you're at work during the day and you're in
LinkedIn and you're doing all your professional worky type things, and then you go home and you get on Twitch because you're a gamer. Like, you're the same exact person.
Yeah.
But what you're there for are different things. So if you're going for business people, take all of this, rewind the webinar, and think LinkedIn. Sure. It's going to be for the best of you.
And realistically, you should have both.
Yeah.
There's no excuse to not have both. And the audiences are different. I will say, while LinkedIn probably does get more traffic, I guarantee you Facebook has better engagement.
Yes.
So depending on what you're looking for, if you're just looking for numbers, yeah, LinkedIn has better traffic. But if you're looking for engagement, like likes and comments and such, that aren't automatically generated because LinkedIn already did 90% of the work for you. Like, I don't know anyone's working anniversary. LinkedIn told me and then gave me 4 options to sound more human.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're just looking for numbers, LinkedIn definitely has it. But engagement, I still think that Facebook is going to be top, especially if you're right. If you are looking for residential, and I do very much agree with Lynette's point about there's different personas, because I know my profile photo on Facebook is not the same as on LinkedIn. Even though they're both still me, I am not using Facebook personally the same way that I'm using LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for a majority of people.
Yeah. And if you're trying to get them in a professional context, then they're over there. They're not thinking, that same person isn't thinking work when they're on Facebook. So
absolutely,
don't spend your coin on it. Okay, let's see. Host town hall events. Yay, I love this one. So our thought here is, if you can't go to the people, have them come to you, right? So what did we have? Zooms giving.
Yep.
I'm an old lady now. I don't know. But like, yeah, everybody did Zoom over Thanksgiving. Everybody's doing networking events. I know I have one for the Florida Association where we've got some kind of virtual conference room and exhibit hall, fancy schmancy thing. Everyone is virtual now. So host events, host a town hall. I know that Hawaii Public Adjusters, I love them dearly. They are the only public adjusting firm on any of the islands. Anybody else flies over. But when they had a volcano eruption, they went and they held town halls with the residents at local libraries and things like that to teach, and they worked with United policyholders to teach people how to put together their claim paperwork and file their claims, how to gather photos, how to go get, all the things that you normally would. So have that town hall with people, especially if you have a cat event rolling through. You can host a town hall. You can promote it all over the place as an event, do a live video event in Facebook. And you can attract or market against or advertise against it and attract people to it. But of course, in those town hall events, you're teaching them things. But what wound up happening, to my knowledge from Hawaii, is a lot of people were like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get this done. And a lot of people were like, no, I don't have the time in my life to go and fight an insurance company for lava damage. Like, here, you go do it for us. Right. So it's a good way to teach the community, to build goodwill, and to get much more business. But I think these town hall events work well, not as a regular, what I call blue sky marketing, like your regular dailies. I think they work really well in catastrophic events, which maybe we're done with hurricane season, maybe we're not, but we all know that just because the storms are gone, the claims are still coming. So you still can have, catastrophic based town hall events and attract people to them and get them to participate and things like that. So that's another really good way to support existing clients. Get your database out of ClaimWizard, go market to them, send them email invitations, say, here's the Facebook link, you can cross platform and do everything. I think it will work really well.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to go through this quickly because I know we had some tech problems in the beginning, but we like to talk about this stuff. So I want to make sure you get your 5 last ones: how to gain referrals and word of mouth clients.
Yep.
First one, and it kind of all blends together. Now, if you look at it, there's only so many things you could do on Facebook, but if you approach a tactic like post testimonials and tag your clients with an expected outcome of one or the other, of attracting new clients or, getting referrals or whatever, that's probably how you're going to phrase things. We mentioned, like, don't let testimonials stay on your website, put them online, recycle them from time to time, on a regular basis online, but tag your clients. If they don't want to be tagged, they can take themselves off. I don't want to say, what's that phrase? Like, don't ask for permission, beg for forgiveness or something. Like, I don't want to seem spammy about it, but
Facebook.
Yeah.
My best practices, in my opinion, is I would tag businesses and similar rather than necessarily tagging individuals sometimes.
Okay.
But just because I know that there's going to get a little bit squeaky about that.
That's true. But if you're posting a testimony on Facebook, you should be getting permission anyway. So you could always ask them, can I tag you or not?
Exactly. And if they want to say they're anonymous, they can be anonymous. But yeah, that would be the only slight caveat, is that I would always, especially on Facebook, people are a little bit more concerned about their privacy, which as a Facebook marketer, I can kind of understand. So while I think on any other platform, I would be a little bit more lenient with that, Facebook particularly has a bit of a reputation for, I don't want people in my privacy. Like, okay, you posted your lunch 30 times, but okay, your privacy, that's fine.
Exactly. All right. Number 2, ask for follows in your client thank you letter. So I can't remember the name of the webinar right now, but I will tag it in the notes when this comes out. We did a webinar on, close file review. Thank you very much, Lynette's brain. That when you're done with a client, when you've received the last check from the carriers and when you've received your last fee checks, about how to deal with your client going forward, how to kind of tidy that claim up. Some of it is for compliance and to make sure that, the correct contracts were signed and things like that. But other parts of it is about priming your clients to become a referral source for you. Mm-hmm. So when you send these thank you letters, ask them for, hey, can you go follow our, Facebook page? I actually have changed my mind over the years about my thinking of this. I used to think, but I never really said it very much, to ask for that up front. Like, hey, new client, go follow us on Facebook. But if you have problems along the way that you can remedy on a phone call, the last thing you want them to do is to go on Facebook and use it as a squawk box to think they're going to get your attention faster. I mean, we all know there's the kind of the quote unquote Karens out there that will go online and I'm going to shame you publicly so you'll help me faster kind of thing. We don't want that. If they find you, they find you. That's totally cool, obviously. But especially with your great clients, ask them to follow you on Facebook to kind of build your environment there.
Absolutely.
The third one is to ask for an online review. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be as tacked on as it sounds. It can be very organic. If it's, thank you, I'm so glad you had a great experience with us. Would you mind sharing that experience with others? Mm-hmm. You can tell I've been doing this for a while.
Yes. See how the language just comes out?
Yeah. My friends hate it. But it can be very organic. And throw that into your thank you card as well. If you don't mind following us on Facebook, if you'd like to share your experience, here's how you can do that.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I know I love sending correspondence like that. I have too many wax seals not to.
The fourth suggestion here on referrals and word of mouth is, do you know someone who? Mm-hmm. So this can be based as one of your questions. This could be in person. This could be like an online Facebook conversation, even in the messenger, the kind of the DMs. Do you know someone who has had similar damage or has also had damage in the previous, hurricane? Do you know someone that has a house like yours? Ask them for like people. So it's sort of the in-person Facebook lookalike audience. Not ask them if they have friends, because everybody has friends and family. But if you just did a claim on a multi-million-dollar house, well, their brother might have $100,000 house, and that may not be the business you're looking for. Right. But what you can do is you can say, do you know someone who, and match a trait of what makes a great client for you, of the type of person that you can help the most. So do you know someone who, also lives on the intercoastal waterway? I have a client down in, we have a client down in the Fort Lauderdale area, and they only take other claims, but they prefer and they advertise the fact they take claims and homes that are located on the intercoastal waterway, which immediately is like bazing with money, right? But they also do, they have an engineer that understands the docks. They have all of these specialty things that they understand how to navigate those properties. Mm-hmm. So it's like, do you know a neighbor on the intercoastal waterway that may have suffered damage as well? Like that's putting like with like, but also use that for Facebook because they'll, they can tag friends and say, hey buddy, you have a doc like me or something. So that's something to kind of use on Facebook to ask a question to get a response, but to cater that response to the type that you're looking for, if that makes sense.
And on the reverse of that, there's a really, really neat feature on Facebook that allows individuals to ask for recommendations. Ideally, because you've now created this really engaged audience, now you are likely to get a recommendation from someone because they can go ahead and tag in that business directly. I know as someone who moved from a large city to another large city, I had nothing. I did not know doctors. I did not know anything. So the first thing I did not Google, I asked my friends.
Yeah. I trust my friends more than I trust Google. You're exactly
Absolutely.
Right. And my friends are on Facebook. So what they tell me, I trust.
Exactly. And what ideally you'll get then is someone who will tag your business, say, oh my gosh, this flood just happened. I need a public adjuster. Well, now you have this cool engaged audience that you've taught, you've hosted town halls, you've engaged with them, you've talked to them, you've really, really built an audience that is likely to then refer you to other people.
Perfect. All these things we have to do for ourselves. I know. Okay. And the last one out of the 15 is give referrals on Facebook. The vendors you like to work with, the guy that installs tile, like he came straight from Italy, the best sheetrocker, like all of that, everything related to your industry. If people ask, answer, give them your recommendation. Mm-hmm. If you're on all of these local community groups or even regional type of things or whatever, or if people, it's the other one, was it Nextdoor? Nextdoor is crazy and toxic, but that's another network that a lot of these tactics could work on as well too, but it's hyper local. But you can say, people are always asking, I need a plumber, I need an electrician, because then you're going to be associated with giving referrals out to other people and they will give them back. But the key about this is it is all public and it is in some way, shape or form, like searchable, like it will keep showing up in people's feeds over and over again. It's not a private phone call between two people. So give 10 times as many referrals as you hope to get.
Absolutely. And the only slight caveat that I would add to that is make sure it's a company that you've actually worked with, because it's common sense, but you always have to say it for someone. Make sure it's a company that you've actually worked with and that you do support, because I know every once in a while a business will try to piggyback. Oh, well, they showed up. It's like, don't do that. So that's the only, I know it's common sense. 99% of people already do that, but there's always that 1% who will just throw in any old person and really sour an environment.
Yeah. And as an aside, when we first moved to Texas, we wound up becoming really close friends with our next door neighbors. We both moved 1.5 miles away at the same time. So now we're 3 miles apart. And we needed electrical work done in our house. And my girlfriend got an electrician. She's like, oh yeah, he was great on the phone, this and that. And I said, oh, okay, I'll use him too. Well, he came to the house and he wrecked everything. She called me right away. She was horrified. She's like, don't let him come to your house. Like, she was paranoid. She's like, because she felt her relationship was on that. Now imagine if she was a professional person, how I would have thought about that business. Right. And I never got him to my house. We wound up finding our own guy that she now uses because she recommended somebody before, just based on that first phone call. But when he showed up, it was like he couldn't tell the difference between a red, a black, and a white wire. So like something really ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so your reputation goes with your referrals. So
absolutely
listen to Amanda. Okay. We made it to the end and we're only 4 minutes late, but we started late because the sound didn't work. So
accurate.
I think we're all good. Does anybody have any questions? Not many people do at the end. They usually email them after, but no, we're good. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure, Amanda, having you on here.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
I accidentally realized I roped her into out of hours work, so I appreciate it.
I accept edible arrangements, nice scented candles. I like milk chocolate over dark chocolate. And my favorite flower is the red rose.
Okay, so there we go. Thank you. Someone in here said, well, they said thank you for the great information, but it said it's all about showing your face, not about the advertising. That is also like why we like to be on video when we do this. All right. I'm going to stop this and then have a great night. Hold on, Amanda. We're not done yet.
I will stay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night. And we'll talk to you soon.